So it's a beautiful fall day, and I'm lucky enough to get to drive a Ferrari on one of these days. And it's a 599 that I'm delivering to a customer, and I'm taking this chance to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the shop. This time of the year in the Northeast, it's fall. Everybody wants to get their car put away for winter, and we're up where I am, which is about 2 hours north of New York City. The snow can come at any time. It can come in November, it can come in October. So everybody's rushing to get their cars either put away for the winter or talk to me about doing a winter project. So what ends up happening is some cars that are going out normally on a normal schedule are kind of heading out. I'm accepting work because I don't know when it's going to snow. So it's always this log jam of cars, and right now I'm pretty well packed. So at the shop I have let's see, we'll start with what's on the rack. So I have a 250 Lusso that's in for some, I guess you could, it's rally prep. The guy just bought the car, sent the car to me, and he's gonna plan on taking it on a rally next year. So we want to just make the car more reliable. So putting a auxiliary fuel pump in the back. I'm fixing up a couple little things. You know, we have a turn signal that's kind of sticky. We've got some, the exhaust has to be replaced because unfortunately the exhaust is just rusting through. I've got one on order. So that's basically the Lusso, and just a little short hit list of things that we would probably do to just make it a little bit more pleasant to drive for long distances. This car's been in storage and a guy's collection where he hasn't really driven it much, so it just needs to be sorted. Next car that I have is a Daytona, and that car is a car that's familiar to me. It's a car that I had, the previous owner had it, and we pulled the transmission, sealed it because it was leaking. We had done some other things for the previous owner. Same thing. He drove the car. He took it to a couple shows. We even took it out to Arizona for a Concours one time, and then last year he contacted me and said that he was thinking about selling the car. I didn't have a buyer at the time, so he found one. He had moved it out to the West Coast, and then it bounced back to the East Coast. I think somebody contacted me because, of course, they look up the serial numbers on these cars, and they find out that I worked on it. So then I get contacted because I'm out there or on the internet or whatever. And then the guy was planning on sending it to me because he said, hey, listen, I'm in New Jersey. I just bought the car, and I'd like to have you service it. And I was like, yeah, sure, great. Congratulations on buying the car. And basically didn't hear anything from him at all. And then, or that was over the summer or early summer, and then all of a sudden in the fall, I get a call from somebody in Arizona that said, hey, I'm thinking about buying this Ferrari, this Daytona, that's out at Copley Motors, which is out in Massachusetts. And I was like, well, that's interesting. That car I thought was just purchased by someone in New Jersey. So I went out to Copley and just took a quick peek at the car because the potential buyer wanted me to take a look at it. So sent me out there. I went and inspected it, and but I was pretty familiar with the car. I was able to show him what work we had done on the car and gave him some story about the last several years of ownership, and he ended up buying the car. So of course it's in Massachusetts, on its way to San Diego or to Scottsdale. So he said, hey, while it's out there, can you just do a couple things? And I'd suggested, the wheels need to be painted. I knew that the previous owner never got around to doing it. So it's here with me. I took the wheels off and set those out, and we're gonna get those painted. I think he's putting a radio in it. That just arrived in the mail, so I've got that project. The other car I have in the shop is, actually I have two GTCs. One that's just here. It belongs to a customer of mine. It's been in storage. It's going, it's staying with me for a while. There's always something going on with that car. I mean, not something going on, but he's always wanting to do stuff to that car. There's always something that he wants to, do to the car while it's here or it's with me. He comes and drives it a little bit, and then tells me what, says, hey, listen, let's do some more stuff to it. So right now it's got some holes in the rear exhaust, and I'm having a rear section made up, so that's going to go in when it arrives. And the other one is a GTC, same thing, silver black. Well, he wants to make it silver black. It came to me red, and that car is just getting put back together. And I'm doing the trim work and putting all the chrome back on the car and all the little pieces and things like that. So that's happening with that one. If you follow my blog, you'll see that I had a glass issue. Unfortunately, a glass broke when we're trying to put it in, which is a thing that happens. And so we just have to get glass and order that. So we're kind of waiting on that. So the next car is a GTC 4, which is belongs to a friend of mine. Unfortunately, had passed away, and that car is just getting some, just waiting actually to be moved on to the next owner. I been working on that car just to get it ready for market, and helping his family move on with that car. Let's see, F40. So F40 is here because it's getting seats reupholstered. So I've had to special order the material. It's a particular red fabric that goes on the F40s, and ordered it from Europe, waiting for that to come in. The upholsterer's waiting for it. He's going to recover the buckets. Once that goes in, then we can send that car back out. PF Coupe is the other car here that's going to a show. And that one's going to Cavallino in a couple months, in January. So that car I'm sending to, or I'm prepping it. So I've got a ton of stuff I got to do to it. I've got to just replace some hoses. It's just all the little details. Not a ton of stuff in the sense of major issues. It was restored by a shop in Latvia that I've been working with for the last several years, and they're doing a really nice job. But to get it to Concours prep is a little bit more involved. I mean, when you consider 100 points in Concours judging, and you have one or two things that are wrong with the car, that's tiny little details, you can take the car out of contention. And although they did the lion's share of the work, from the finishing, the fitting, the upholstery, the all the assembly and all that other stuff, while I consulted, there were certain things that either were lost in translation, or they consulted in other people and got the wrong information. And I know, or at least I know to the best of my knowledge, of how to get a car to platinum. I've won a couple platinums in showing cars, so I have experience and at least the resources to ask what is correct or what would be considered correct for these cars. So I'm making those corrections as I see them, and I'm hoping that I could get as close to 100 points as possible on this show level. So that car is in the process of ordering parts. I'm waiting for things to come in. I'm installing them as they come. So that's going on too. The E-Type is just here for storage. My Mustang on top of it is actually kind of sad, because it's like the cobbler's shoes. I have didn't put any miles on the Mustang. I feel really bad for that car. In fact, the registration has lapsed on it. I got to renew it, and I wish I had some more time to drive that car. That car is a lot of fun, and basically a 4-speed 289, but when I get so busy with, as you can see, with all these cars, I mean, some of these cars in here I kind of have to drive. The Lusso came in, I had to drive that car. I had to drive the F40. You guys see the videos that I do driving these cars, but one of the disadvantages is that all this time that I spend driving these other cars, I don't get to drive my own cars. The other car in the shop that's mine is my 330 America. I drove that to Canada this year, and put about 800 miles on that car. Came home and somehow ended up with a flat tire. It's a slow leak, so right now the car is sitting on a flat tire, and I need to find some time to pull it off and find out what's wrong with it. But with winter fast approaching and all these other projects going on, who has time? So sometimes it's really hard to work on these, to have your own cars while you're working on everybody else's car, and you're paying customers that are waiting. And even on a Saturday or a Sunday when I can take a car out for a drive and test drive a car when the roads are quiet, I don't have the energy to take my own car out. So, or at least the time to take my own cars out. So sometimes it's really kind of difficult to do that. So the next car is a 250 GTE. It's been sitting here, and it's almost good to do these videos because it only reminds me of how much I need to get some work done on this car. This car was pulled out of another shop that had disassembled it and painted it, and came to me, and just everything stuffed in the trunk and boxes and pieces, and it was painted but disassembled. So, and I think it was not a pretty departure from that other shop. Customer decided to pull it, and it came to me, and my job was to put it all back together. Well, the problem I had, which is just like, unfortunately, when somebody else takes a car apart, it's a lot of work, and you got to figure out where everything goes and what's missing, and you never put together a car and not lose some kind of part somewhere, let alone when you move it from one shop to another. And so this car came to me, pretty disassembled, and trying to put this big jigsaw puzzle to figure out what parts you're missing was quite a challenge. And unfortunately, every time I work on this car, I turn around and something else is missing. We did the engine, and found small pieces missing on the engine. Just a little nut here, or a bracket, or something that goes to the engine is just missing, and you won't know until you put it all back together. Yeah, you can inventory a car when it all, try to get it as close as possible. But when something's disassembled, it's really easy to miss, a particular clip or a bracket. On this car, the transmission was completely disassembled. The gears were out of it. All this stuff was apart. And so when I started putting it all together, it looked like it was there. Overdrive was, kind of disassembled, but hopefully all the springs and all the little things were there. And then, as I'm putting the thing together, I realized that the speedometer drive is missing on this overdrive. So then I started doing the research on the speedometer drive, and because it was a Laycock de Normanville English overdrive, it was licensed to Bianchi, the Italian manufacturer that took the Laycock design and created their own, overdrive unit licensed through Laycock. Well, the problem between that licensing is that a lot of the fasteners that they use were metric. So they created a lot of stuff that was specific to the Bianchi units. So when I found I was missing parts to the I was missing parts of the overdrive, and I tried to get overdrive parts for it through, today, Bianchi's certainly not around making overdrives anymore, so you kind of have to go to Laycock de Normanville specialists, and they come back to me and says, oh, we don't stock those parts because those parts are metric, or those parts were specific to Bianchi. They licensed it, but they cut different gears. So I now have to backward engineer this speedometer drive gear to make everything work. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, and every time that happens, I end up stopping and trying to figure out where and how and who is going to help me fix this thing. So unfortunately, it's really been a struggle, and I feel bad for the owner. He's understanding of it all, but months go by, and I feel like no progress gets made. And but I feel like if I just keep pushing, at some point we'll solve all the problems and the car will go back together. How long that takes, I don't know. But that's been a project, long-term project, just trying to collect the right parts. Just even the headlights, putting the headlights together was a struggle, because the buckets were missing. So you had the trim rings, you had all this stuff, but all of a sudden you don't have the specific buckets to this particular car, which for a GTE is a is early Series 1. So you had to make sure Series 1 GT. Well, where do you get buckets for it? Well, you'd have to buy them off of a wrecked car. Well, how many wrecked GTE buckets do you know are available in the world? or you buy buckets and then try to weld them and fabricate them so that they fit, and modify them so they fit this car. So yeah, every step of the way on this car has been a struggle, but you know, keep moving forward and try to make it all work and eventually finish up this car. So that's the story on the car. And sometimes when I'm talking about all this work, I'm asking myself, well, what am I doing driving a car on a Wednesday morning to go deliver it when I should be back at the shop, you know, working? And part of it is because it's got to be done. So you know, try to enjoy the drive, try to enjoy the scenery, and you know, try to get back to the shop as soon as I can. But thanks for riding along, and I'll talk to you guys soon.